call.
Trustee Pashma?
Here.
Trustee Braden?
Here.
Trustee Stifler?
Here.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Burns?
Here.
Trustee Benke?
Here.
I understand that President Cawley is not able to be in attendance tonight, so I'd like to make a motion to appoint Trustee Luke Stifler as President Pro Tem for this meeting.
Second. Can we get a roll call vote on that measure?
Trustee Pashma?
Aye.
Trustee Braden?
Aye.
Trustee Stifler? Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Burns? Trustee
aye.
Benke?
And aye. Beautiful, thank you. With that, I'd like to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the schedule is the approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the minutes of the special meeting of the Board of Trustees on October 16, 2023.
Second. Any comments?
No.
Hearing none, roll call vote?
Trustee Pashma?
Aye.
Trustee Braden?
Aye.
Trustee Stifler?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Burns?
Aye. Abstain, excuse me.
Trustee Benke?
Aye. Okay, then limited comments from the Office of the Village President. Specifically, would like to note that as we approach the winter months, residents are reminded that the village does have the Hinsdale Snow Shoveling Referral Program, which benefits Hinsdale residents who are over the age of 60 or who do have a disability. The program provides residents who qualify with the names and contact information of volunteers willing to shovel snow on their behalf. The program also helps to connect residents in need with residents seeking ways to volunteer and contribute or give back to their community. Individuals who are looking to give back, who are seeking community service volunteer hours, are encouraged to complete the application on the village's website under the snow shoveling logo. Secondly, Small Business Saturday, which is Saturday, November 25th, or the Saturday after Thanksgiving. This is a day to celebrate and support our small businesses, so if possible, please plan to stop by, order online, or leave a review to support the Hinsdale Chamber of Commerce and our small business activities. With that, Matt, moving on to Village Treasurer.
Yes, would like to appoint a new village treasurer. As you may know, treasurer is one of the official offices of the village. Daryl Langley had been treasurer, and now that Carrie Dittman has joined the finance staff, I'd like to appoint her officially as treasurer. She's exceptionally well qualified for this position. She's a certified public accountant. She was a manager at a public accounting firm, and she served as director of finance at two other municipalities before coming to Hinsdale, the village of Willowbrook, and the city of DeKalb. If anyone, unless anyone has any questions, I'd like to move to appoint Carrie Dittman as the village treasurer.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Pashma?
Aye.
Trustee Braden?
Aye.
Trustee Stifler?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Burns?
Aye.
Trustee Benke?
Aye.
Let's see, and then item 6 is to approve a resolution regarding the village 2023 property tax levy. As you may know, property taxes constitute approximately 37% of village revenues, and it's composed of several components. First component, the increase is capped at the lesser of inflation, CPI, and 5%. Inflation at the end of 2022 was 6.5%, so we will use that 5% number. This main component is $8,312,330. We then have the ability to increase for new construction. So based on estimated new construction of $53.5 million, that will be an increase of $71,939. We then have non-discretionary levy amounts. This includes a small piece of the fire pension, the Gateway recreational program for disabled residents, as well as debt service that is not subject to abatement from other revenue sources. These non-discretionary amounts are $321,107. And then finally, the last component is the levy from the library. This is determined by the library board, and they decided to increase their levy this year by 5.5%, so that comes to a library levy of $3,673,556. The total amount being levied by the village is $12,378,932. That represents an increase of 5.67% total. Because the levy is over 5%, we're required to have a public hearing, and that will take place at the next board meeting. And in addition, at the next board meeting, we'll have a first read on the ordinance to levy the property taxes for 2023. Carrie, anything else you want to add, or?
No, I think you covered it all. The only just item, the notice of the public hearing will be in this Thursday's edition of the Hinds Daily, and everything else spot on. We'll be doing the first read of the overall tax levy ordinance and all the debt service abatement ordinances at the November 21st board meeting.
Any other questions?
Consistent with past years, we're levying the maximum amount that we can.
Yes,
But inconsistent with past years, it's going to be less than CPI.
that's right, because we're only allowed by statute to increase up to 5%, right?
Right. Thank you.
Unless there's new
Yep.
construction, and then we have the uncapped amounts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that'll be on the agenda next time for a public hearing.
That's right. And so I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution, which is in the board package, regarding the village 2023 real estate tax levy.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Bashima?
Aye?
Trustee Braden?
Aye.
Trustee Stifler?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Burns?
Aye.
Trustee Payton?
Aye.
This moves us to agenda item number 7, which is the citizens petitions. If there's anyone here that would like to speak on anything having to do with the community, I would invite you to do so now. If there's anything that's specifically on the agenda, I would ask you to wait until that item appears.
I'm just gonna let them run around.
Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me back again. Again, my name is still Kyle Comstock. I decided to bring the person I'm speaking for on behalf of today because he cannot speak himself. This is my son, Benjamin Comstock. I was told today that you have pushed for 911 North Elm to put in baby changing tables in their medical office building. I have been putting pressure on them, started up a petition, went into the building, had multiple people who have different offices in there sign the petition, and as I said, there are multiple pediatrician offices in the building, yet there are no baby changing tables in any of the bathrooms. You have told me that they do have plans to put it in within 6 months. I do not think that it should take 6 months to put in a baby changing table. I think that it could be done in 1 day. So I would like to push to fast track this and actually get this done. Seeing how we are in a post-COVID world, I don't see why allowing something like not changing a baby's diaper on a sink is an unreasonable request. So again, I'll keep it nice and short for you all. That's all I have to say. I will continue to come here until they're put in.
Comments from staff, are we addressing that?
We've gotten a commitment from the building management to install baby changing stations in those bathrooms. And while there's no code requirement to back that up, they agreed to do that as a functional amenity for their
Okay.
clientele.
And then if you would just leave your contact information. I think
I've
you
already written it
probably done
down.
it was signed. Can you just follow up and get timing on that?
We've
We'll
spoken.
follow up with you. And if it's not done in 2 weeks, we'll see you then.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Other residents or community members? Okay, hearing none. That moves us on to agenda item 8A, which I believe is you, Neil.
Yes. Okay, 8A is to accept a proposal from Diaz Group LLC for snow removal and salting of the Brush Hill Train Station and Highland Train Station. The village is responsible for taking care of those train stations during the winter. And starting last year and then this year also, we are looking to contract that out. And the reason for that is when there is a snowfall, this puts a lot of pressure on the village employees. The number one thing they have to do is, of course, is to clear the streets. I think that's what the residents want. So rather than have them work on the Brush Hill and Highland train stations, we're going to contract out with this group to do that. Public Services is also down one full-time employee, and there's some situations with that, so that's why we want to go ahead and do this. It's going to be $29,000, and that will take care of any snowfall up to 45 inches. Now, the other side of that is, last year we only had 20 inches of snow. So in a situation like that, Diaz Group LLC wins. But if it goes up to 45 inches, they don't win as much. So anyway, so that's a situation, and Diaz Group LLC has no relation whatsoever to our esteemed engineer, Al Diaz.
Do we have any references on this company or dealt with them before? Do we know?
They've done other municipal contracts, so they've performed well. Our superintendent checked with in some private developments that they do, as long as other municipal clients, and they've checked out well. I will verify the one question you had regarding the blizzard clause.
Yeah.
And then when this comes back for a second read or on a consent, we'll explain that in a little bit more detail, how that will function.
And just to point that out to the trustees, the question I had on one of the last pages, what they refer to as a blizzard clause, if there's more than 8 inches of continuous snow, which we have had in the past, they get to add an additional fee on there for materials and time basis. So I'm just wondering if that's market for this area. So,
We will confirm that, but typically we pay up for the season up to 45 inches.
great.
So I'll verify that, and we'll disclose that at the next meeting.
Excellent.
So we shouldn't go into a consent agenda on this.
Yeah, let's leave it
Keep it
off.
open.
Just leave that. Good point. Okay. Other questions on this matter? Hearing none, we move to agenda item 8B. And this is for a replacement of an electronic fingerprint identification system for the police department. The existing system was purchased in 2010, and replacement was originally scheduled 10 years later in 2020, but it was deferred until now in 2023. This request specifically waives the competitive bid process. The police department received 3 bids in the amount of $13,500, approximately $23,000, and approximately $24,000. The police department is requesting that we go with the most expensive unit, which is $24,000 versus $23,000 or $13,000, which is the iTouch manufacturer. Specifically, this unit performs better than the other two. The other two are not tied into the records management system for DuPage or Cook counties. And then the lower priced one at $13,000 does not have a mobile application system. Originally, we budgeted $30,000 for this, so while this is the most expensive, it does offer what I guess we would refer to as the greatest performance or the greatest functionality for the police department, and it is approximately $6,000 inside of budget. So police chief is available to answer any questions on this if necessary.
Are there any other products that do integrate with Cook and DuPage?
These are the only products that answered that when we went out looking for potential vendors. The number 2 product for $23,000 said that at some point in the future they would try to develop an interface for DuPage County. But that would potentially, we would be on the hook for additional costs to get that installed in our system.
Other questions, issues? All right, so this, I would say on the consent agenda for next time. Good. Which brings us to agenda item HC, which is pertains to the property which is located at 125 South Vine Street and previously referred to as Zion Lutheran School. The applicant who is here tonight, Holiday Properties, is proposing to convert the existing building into 12 age-restricted housing units to be known as Vine Street Station. You know, we've got a lot of material here on this. I just want to clarify, I read in different places as far as the units. The proposed units right now are a total of 12 units, which are going to be 10 two-bedroom units and 2 one-bedroom units. Of the 10 two-bedroom units, 2 of the 10 are going to have small dens associated with them. So in the readings, I kept reading going back and forth that there was some, at least in my mind, some confusion, so I just wanted to clarify that. We're all familiar with this project, and to date, the project has moved through the process with the support from this board. It's also received unanimous support from the Plan Commission. For the most part, the community, and when I say the most part, also from the community, and for the most part, the neighborhood in the area. You know, the process here is a long one, as the applicant can attest to, but in early 2022 is when Holiday Properties was first in front of us. And at that time, this board referred a concept plan to Plan Commission. In the summer of 2022, we approved the concept plan. The applicant spent approximately the next year putting together a detailed plan, which is much more expensive on their behalf, and as the title dictates, offers more details. In the summer of 2023, we referred that to Plan Commission. Plan Commission heard the matter, and it's now back to us for a vote 2 weeks from this evening on the final detailed plan. I don't want to go back through all of the changes that have been made through the process, just because it's all very well detailed in here. And for the most part, all of the changes that we have requested have been accepted and accepted very graciously by the developer. Some changes that I think the biggest change that we've made is we requested from the beginning that this be an age-restricted property, and that's going to be born in the bylaws of the condominium association, which can't be changed without 2/3 of a vote from us. We've done some research, or council, not we, but council has done some research on the fair housing laws regarding age restriction. And what we're seeking here is 55 and older, and basically of the 12 units, 80% have to be occupied by someone that is over the age of 55. So that's something that will be born in the documents, and those documents can't change without consent from this board. Other than that, there have been other substantial changes, but I'm not going to go into those. As I said, I'm going to try to keep this a little bit shorter. The specific matters that are in front of us for consideration tonight, though, are to approve an ordinance of a tentative plat of subdivision for Vine Street Station, planned development, and also Zion Lutheran Church at 125 South Vine Street and a portion of 116 South Grant Street. Also, and I think that this is probably one of the big ones, because we as a village do not take this lightly, but a map amendment relative to the property located at 125 South Vine Street and a portion of 116 South Grant Street. We are looking seeking a map amendment here, which would change the property from institutional building to O1. I would note, usually the map amendments can be controversial because in general, you're relaxing the restrictions under the map amendment. In my opinion here, going from IB to O1 makes it more restrictive. It also makes it more cohesive with the surrounding neighborhood. So at least in my opinion, that's a win for the village also, and for the neighborhood. And then third is to approve an ordinance for a detailed plan, which I mentioned before, for the plan development. The associated waivers and variations, which are primarily all due to that they're using an existing building and not changing it. Just primarily setbacks with regard to the building and how close it is to the sidewalks. Also exterior appearance and site plan approval, and a sign permit for the Vine Street Station plan development, lifestyle housing at 125 South Vine and 116 South Grant. I would like to highlight at the Plan Commission meeting last month, it recommended approval of the detailed plan with the following conditions. If you recall, there's 3 exterior parks surrounding this property. The applicant is looking to have an outdoor living room area with a television. There were 2 neighbors in particular that were concerned with that. Since that occurred, the applicant has come back and agreed to limit the hours in the bylaws from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and put a governor on the sound. What I would like to see, and then there was also some language saying if there were multiple comments that we would restrict that. I don't necessarily like doing that, because if you have one angry neighbor that unjustly voices concerns, it can put an onus on the applicant when they may not have done anything wrong. And I've lived by people that have had exterior TVs. I've never had an issue with them, and my property line are pretty close to each other. So I don't expect a problem with that, but what I would like to see is potentially something that we can measure as far as a decibel level of what you'll put on a governor for the volume of that television. Should be fairly simple for someone that knows what they're doing. Secondly, there was a request that the village board complete a thorough review of parking in the area, including changing signs to say, which I believe on Vine Street, to say no parking this side of the street. Which is pretty simple. I think the police department's already looking into that. The plan commission made that recommendation that we look into that, but it's not necessarily, I don't want to make it a condition of this, because I don't think parking on the streets, exterior streets that the village controls, we should put an onus on the applicant for that. But understanding that the village is already looking into that and taking action. The third condition that they cited was the village board considering changing 2nd Street from a one-way street to a two-way street. When we referred this at the planned concept back in the summer of 2022, that was discussed. I think in general, most people were supportive of turning it back into a two-way street, but President Cawley specifically didn't want to tie the two together. So again, I think the police department has got that underway. They're going to start looking at that, but much like we did with HCS and the intersection at Walnut and by the hospital, make that separate and not put it as a condition for this application, but knowing that the village is pursuing it. And then lastly, have the applicant investigate additional stormwater management infrastructure or practices that could be used to improve water runoff in the area. But I would note here, everything that, they're not adding any additional building here. It's the same that was there before. They're actually increasing the amount of impervious space, so there should be greater water absorption at the space, and this meets all of our code requirements and DuPage water requirements. So I think that we should do that as a recommendation and not put additional guidelines or parameters on this applicant specifically. Just my comments. With that, before we have the applicants speak, are there any items in particular that we'd like to have the applicant run through or questions to answer?
Somebody somewhere brought up whether you could combine the units, like combine 2 units together. And is there I don't know if we ever got an answer on that.
Hello, good evening. My name is Drew Mitchell. It's great to be back here. I'm a partner with Holiday Properties. We've been working on this project for some time. It's been a very, I think, intentional and deliberate process to arrive at an outcome that I think has the most consensus and really enthusiasm. I'm joined today by Chris Walsh with Tandem Architecture. He's been a longtime architectural partner of our firm at Holiday. I'm joined by Lori Capel and Donald Tomei, who are associates with me at Holiday. Donald's an analyst, Lori's a project designer. And I'm joined by Lauren Kavanaugh, who's our attorney. She's worked very hard with the village attorney on preparing the condominium bylaws. I'm going to try, there's 300 pages in there, so sorry, but it's what we asked for, and I think it's important to make sure we know what we're doing here. Kind of at the really base level here, we got an incredible building built in 1931. It's part of our community. It's on a prominent corner, and I think that it's been in a period of decline for some time. There's been exploration of a multitude of different uses, from D181 moving their office there. It's been used as an athletic facility. And then meanwhile, you know, life is going on, and we're seeing transit-oriented development popping up in the suburbs. And Hinsdale is decidedly not really focused aggressively on introducing a lot of multifamily product or a rental product. And 12 units in a condominium structure is considered multifamily. So there were just some things to navigate as we started this process. We're also joined by the congregation president, Suzanne McGivney, who's probably not thrilled that I'm pointing her out, but she's here, and they've been a really tremendous partner as well, making space available for the neighborhood meetings that we've had, as well as sort of celebrating in this potential outcome here of saving a great building and really providing what is a much needed type of housing accommodation in our community. It allows some of our empty nesters to downsize where they have grandchildren in town. And we're also modernizing the building. We're introducing electric vehicle charging stations and elevators. There's abundant outdoor space. We're super excited about it. There's a dedicated quasi-public park, quasi because we get to pay to maintain it, and public because the public gets to use it. There's a sitting garden that we're collaborating with the church on that they'll be able to use. Forgive me, President Pro Tem, for not going straight to what's changed, but I think it's good to have some background here. So our objectives really are a couple. One, save this building, this 1931 building, the two-story stained glass, the cornerstones, and really clean it up. Two, providing housing for our empty nester communities to stay, empty nesters to stay in our community. Three, this helps our tax rolls. We're taking a building that's generating no real estate taxes, and it will increase our EAV. So Trustee Pashima may come under that 5% next year. And then fourth, it's a thoughtful plan. I really think that these are appropriately sized. I'm not concerned there's an 80% minimum. You can't, fair housing won't let you say it's got to be 100% over 55. We really aren't concerned from a product standpoint that we're going to have families living here. It won't be priced competitively to an entry-level house here. And we just don't really see it as a place. We have comparable train station-oriented product in DuPage County, and we have virtually no children in our buildings. It's really where you see younger folks, it's pre-household formation. And this really doesn't make sense for that. And they can't live there, so it doesn't really matter. But and then as Trustee Stifler pointed out, you know, most of our requests are really for existing non-conforming. We have an existing building that we're reusing. I mean, we have height variations that we need because the building's already too tall, or it's set too close to the property line and we can't really move it. So the four major changes between our conceptual plan presentation to this body and today is the elimination of a loading space. We've done this thoughtfully. We had dedicated loading space previously, and you know, we've got there's a 94-unit project called Quincy Station in Westmont, and it's filled up. It opened in last July. It filled up in 4 months, and you really don't see moving trucks. I mean, so we expect people to live here an average of 5.5 years, and so you should have about 2 moves a year in theory over time. So the way that we're handling the loading, I think, is really thoughtful and proper for the building. The second is signage. We want to put some elegant, basic signage on the building. There's an awning and some window decals, and it requires the approval of the village board. The third is a flagpole. It's Chris, would you speak to why we need this? I have trouble explaining this quickly.
Sure, yeah, it's just the way the code is written. The flagpole is actually for on top of the building. Really isn't a provision for, am I saying that right? Mm-hmm. For having it on the ground. There was an existing flagpole there. We're putting it back where it was. There's nothing in your code that really gives us a height, so we're asking for a variance to allow for that, to put the flagpole back.
And you're looking for a 35-foot flagpole there?
Correct, which will be shorter than the building.
So that's on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is really picky, but we're dealing with this later in the agenda. But we've had, at the Hinsdale Middle School, they have a flagpole in the front, and with the connectors to hook the flag, when the flag's up overnight and it's windy, it's just like a hammer hitting the aluminum pole if you've ever been on a boat.
We've heard it.
All night long, we've had complaints. Can you just look at some type of, be cognizant of that when you take care of it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
One of our prospective residents did express concern that they wouldn't be able to hear the train over flag flapping and TV noise. But then he said JK LOL. So I can tell anybody what that means if you need help. But and then the last is really kind of putting teeth in what we're deciding and talking about, and how are there mechanisms to make sure that this is what we want. And that's Lauren Kavanaugh, and that's our bylaws, our covenants and declarations. There's been a ton of work into it. I'd be lying if I said I've read every page, just like you guys have all read all 300 pages. But I think it's accomplishing the sections that are really pertinent to what we're talking about. I think we've dealt with effectively. The TV hours, the coming back with the 2/3 majority. There's plenty of ways to haul us back in if we don't do what we are committing to do. And then just some loose little things like don't focus on the traffic. And we keep hearing that people want Second Street one way, but don't make that a core part of this project. And we've avoided that. Acknowledging, recognizing, and following through on the age-targeted element. On the unit sizing, this is a fascinating question, mostly because we keep getting it. And part of our sort of MO has been, that's not something that we're really even contemplating right now. We need to focus on getting through this process. And then there's a process of design and identifying who's gonna live here with their home. And so I personally think that there's benefit if we allow combining units, because it could mitigate some of our parking requirements. It could mitigate some of the trash generation and other things. But ultimately, I'm curious what you think about it. I mean, I think it'd be good to have the flexibility. I think structurally, we have some steel girders that we really can't work. I mean, they're there. They're not moving. And so this, maybe you could address, Chris, like from a functional utility standpoint, if it's possible. But we have been getting this question, so it's fair that you bring it
Yeah,
up.
and I really don't have a horse in the race. It's just that I've heard that. I think we wanted to settle it, just so we know
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's gonna keep coming up. People are gonna come in. You did ask to not have more than 2 bedrooms. So that really, I think, would be kind of hard if they start combining units, to keep them to 2 bedrooms. That may be a reason in itself to kind of just turn people away, unless they want to buy 3 and split it into 2 and 2. I don't know. But to me, I think that would be the hardest thing. The units they're not small, they're not huge, but like I said, if you were to combine 2 of them, you'd have at least 3 huge bedrooms, to me. And I think, again, that would probably go against what you're trying to do here and keeping it age restricted.
You always hear about it in New York, Cher bought the unit above her and combined, and now they got the penthouse. I mean, I think we should allow that. I really think it'd be but I think that there are arguments both ways. I think what we're probably gonna run into is that it's gonna be hard for some reason or another. For example, we got a guy who said he wants 4 units on the end, and I got a fire exit running through. I mean, people can't go through his living room in a fire. So it may not even be possible.
Yeah, I personally, I haven't given it much thought, and initially, I don't have a vote one way or another.
Yeah, I don't either. I just.
Perhaps we could think about it between now and next time. I think
I mean, I don't know if it matters to us as a
No.
board, as a village.
so long as the exterior of the property doesn't change, and
I think that's fair.
It's less density. I mean,
it's less
not
density,
better.
right? It's less traffic.
It seems to have lots of pluses and very few minuses in my mind. But, and forgive me for not being able to just give you the answer. But we don't really want to talk to buyers right now as part of it. We got to finish this process and respect the process. So,
Maybe similarly, what if somebody buys what, and then can they rent it out? How does that work?
okay, so this is addressed in the bylaws, and you can rent a unit here, but it's got to be a year. It was 6 months originally, and we just changed it to a year because it's customary. There's no Airbnbs, there's no, mini Hotel Hinsdale that's gonna go on here. And there's a lot of thought into some of the things that we've seen that have problems, like somebody put a kayak in a building we put in Downers Grove, and their lease didn't have a mechanism to get the kayak off the front of our building. So for 2 years, everybody was like, are you waiting for a huge rainfall? And so I get back on track. Digress is one of my son's vocabulary words this week.
And we've
too,
got,
so.
there's no storage on the outside balcony.
No storage, that's correct. There's no storage. I mean, they're gonna have chairs and plants and, but they can't be used for storage. And then Chris, or Donald, do you guys think, come on up. You're welcome. And maybe we could use some guidance. Should we just give a quick overview of the project, or should we assume that?
I mean, yeah, I really think, I mean, we've been through this process. We've
Yeah.
talked along the way. We've asked, we have not been shy. We've asked for everything that we wanted. And you guys have been great in providing that to us. As I was reading through the materials on Sunday night, there's literally no changes that I would ask for. I think, the biggest one we had was for me, was the loading dock.
Yeah.
But you're gaining parking spaces as a result of that, and I did the same math you did. It's gonna be 2 days a week,
Yeah.
or 2 days a year.
It's a nothing. The quality of the package, thank you for the credit. It was with guidance really from staff. We got incredible staff, and I don't mean to get into a compliment fest here, but it's spectacular. So we're here because of all these great people, and we'll do whatever you want us to do. Rip the TV, no TV, flag furling, all that. We want to close by Christmas for Suzanne. I want to give her a big check and put it in the basket. And I know it's gimmicky, but that's what we're trying. That's really what I'm trying to do. So.
I mean, for the process here, just so the trustees understand, we're gonna vote on this on Tuesday, the 21st. That will be the last time we see this project for this is the detailed plan. They then move on to a final plan, but that's just done administratively with Rob and Bethany and their team. So I would encourage trustees, if there's any changes, any questions that you have, ask them tonight, because last time we're gonna get to address them is on next Tuesday, or a week from Tuesday.
I just
2
have one
weeks.
question.
Yep.
So one of the challenges that we've run into with commercial projects is along the property lines, if there's being some level of inventory of the vegetation that's shared between two properties. We've run into some really serious problems with people that have gone into dispute because someone liked bushes, and then you're building a new project, and all of a sudden you don't think that it's up to the standard that you want to present as it relates to the property that you have. And so I think that we would really stress the sensitivity to making sure that there's an understanding of where those property lines reside and who owns what vegetation, and what you would be doing, or what you would be proposing, or how you're going to interact with a resident, in the event that you need to make some changes, because that's something that we've had to deal with over and over and over again in multiple
I've seen
meetings
it, yeah.
with multiple different commercial properties.
Okay, fair comment. Here's how I'd like to respond to that. We have had Forester Fennell out. We inventoried the site. We have, I think, a really solid landscape plan. It's what we plan to do. I'm willing to go meet with the neighbor. You know him. Lauren's office is in the building next door. And then my other neighbor is Pastor Klein, who's the pastor of the congregation. So I know what you're talking about, and agreements prevent disagreements. So we're just gonna get agreement beforehand on exactly what we're doing and make sure that they're on board. And if I have to put in a baby changing station or did something wrong, I will also do that.
Right, so it's just having those communications with the neighbors and an understanding of, hey, listen, if we're gonna remove something, this is what's gonna be removed, and then it's worked out between you and the neighbor. It's not necessarily that the village is gonna have to get involved and mitigate the situation, because we've been in that situation.
Yes.
In some cases for months.
Okay, I feel what you're talking about. We're gonna avoid that outcome, and we're gonna get agreement before we do the work. And I'm on the record saying that, and Bethany will hold me to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Michelle?
Everything I think looks great.
Thank you.
We're all excited to see something like this in town. I just wanted to say thank you. I thought the landscaping plan was very thorough. You have a very nice range of plants. Green is good in this situation. It'll keep the neighbors happy.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, keep it there, keep it open, and then I guess, if there's any problems that arise, you can turn and pivot and put in an arborvitae or a different
Yeah.
tree.
Yes. I think, let me feel out what you're saying a little bit more. I mean, at some point, we're gonna have residents here in an HOA. And so maybe there's, I understand what you're asking, and I think we can, I mean, I'm agreeing to go meet with them, but there could be other implications that are, come out of that.
Well, to give a little context, so we've had neighbors that have come to the village board expecting the village to mitigate disputes.
Okay,
And
yeah, it's not a
that,
civil
and
court.
what happens is then we end up tying up village staff, and I'm talking hours, expensive hours, in order to mitigate this, arborvitae. I can't tell you how many times we've heard the word arborvitae in these meetings
Yeah.
because it was a 4-foot instead of a 5-foot arborvitae.
Okay.
It's those types of disputes. But also, we had a situation, and I won't go name the individual it was involved with, but decided that the foliage that was between the property that they had built and the homeowner behind them, it wasn't really up to the standard of what they wanted as it related to this new building and the neighbor. Well, all of a sudden, the neighbor lost all their screening,
Yeah.
and they could hear Ogden Avenue. Okay, so again, you're not on Ogden Avenue, but you're by the train. So these are the types of things where people have this elevated sensitivity to changes that you may not necessarily even think about because you're trying to beautify something.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, I love this project. I think it's fantastic. I think that this would, my wife and I are at an
Thank you.
age where this would be ideal for us. But I also know that sitting on this board, that there's situations that we do not want to put our village staff in ever again. And we are highly sensitive to that.
I respect that, I understand it, we're gonna do our best to avoid having any civil disputes with our neighbors. And I really like one of them, and the other one Lauren really likes, so we'll work through it, but I hear you, don't dismiss it at all.
A couple points I take into consideration on that. The projects that, at least that I'm aware of, that we've run into trouble, it's been when we've had commercial versus residential. Here, even though it's multifamily, it's residential versus residential. And two, just my observations of the participants or players there. I think I do take you at your word that you're gonna be very sensitive to that.
Yeah.
And if ultimately something does come back where there's a disagreement, and we've had these issues before, but we've got to document it specifically what's supposed to go there. So-
Now you have a hammer, I
and
think.
we'll try to avoid that.
It's a solid landscaping
It is.
plan.
No, it is.
looks
I mean, it
nice.
absolutely is. But
Yeah.
again, it's just that, all of a sudden you run into a situation where you're making a change and you don't anticipate the reaction of a neighbor.
Yeah. Hey, there's a number of trees on the west side of this property, and most of them are garbage. And could they be upset if one of them goes away and it affects shade
That's
or sun?
exactly-
I
that's a great
understand.
example
So
of
I'm
where
gonna
you're
walk
gonna
out,
go.
we'll mark them, and are you gonna be upset if we tear that tree down? I mean, I live here, I'm gonna go by it every day on my way to work. I mean, that's, so, yeah.
Good. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, Drew, I think I know the answer to this, but at one point we were talking, there was a concern that these parking spots underneath were very narrow, but did the elimination of that van, or I mean, the unloading dock, did that straighten everything out?
Thank you for bringing that up. That was one of the major changes, and that was a major concern at Plan Commission and Village Board, was non-conforming parking spaces. All of our spaces are now conforming. Was that driven by the change in the loading? I don't recall. I don't think it was. But it really was on field measuring. You're a little more conservative till you got the exact science, and then we're able to figure out exactly how many spots.
Do you know what the widths of the parking spots are?
Nine
or
foot.
9.5?
feet. Everything.
9 foot.
9
9
and
foot,
18
okay.
and a half.
I think we're 9 in the parking garage. I'm
Yeah, we're
pretty sure.
code.
Yeah.
We're code, no, everything they've got
Everything
is code compliant.
Is code compliant now, and it gets back.
And also, for our code requires for units here, like I think 1.5 spots for the square feet that they have. They've got a full 2 spots underground. 95% of it's underground parking. So the parking that they have far exceeds what we would typically see.
Okay, so there's 2 spots per unit, is that what you're saying?
Just under.
Just
Just
under.
under. So 10 units get 2 spots, and 2 units only have 1 spot.
Oh, okay, that makes sense, sure.
One bed.
And if they have a visitor, I mean, this is again being good neighbors, and but the church, if they don't have an event, will allow visitors to park overnight. I mean, it's collaborative. They're excited about saving the building too. So, and this is all getting memorialized, so I'm not worried about, the 99-year ground lease and all of our grandchildren are in here fighting. I don't think that's gonna happen either. Where did I bring up ground lease? I'm talking about long-term weird sorry, there's no ground lease here, if I confused anybody.
Okay, so as far as the process here, we're not voting on this matter. We'll vote in 2 weeks. I think, Drew, if you show up next in 2 weeks, it'll probably be sufficient. This is a
Okay.
big project. Most times we would tell applicants they don't have to show up, but this.
You want me to stay here till then?
You can do what you want between now and then. but-
Okay, all right, well, we really appreciate all of your input. I think it's resulted in a much better project, so, and thank you to Suzanne and the congregation of Zion. You guys have been incredible partners. We look forward to hopefully having a positive vote in 2 weeks.
Lastly, so.
Yes, sir.
You want to have this property sold by the end of the year, done? When would you want to start selling, and when would people start moving in?
Okay, so contractually, our closing, there's a 30-day trigger after our final approval, which we expect here, you just outlined in a couple weeks. Ideally, we'd close by Christmas for lots of reasons. Then we go into the permitting process, which you briefly described. That probably will be pretty quick here, but it can be 6 months. So I think we're probably, in a perfect world, like May, we're starting to do work. More likely, and I'm notorious for not hitting my start dates because Murphy's Law, but probably August or September. I can't imagine this time next year there's not a whole ruckus out there. And then the sales process is really, we're going to work on that while we're in for permit. And what does this look like? And who do we want to work with? And who's the designer? And because some people are showing up, they have a designer. Other people want it all built out. So we're trying to figure it out. And it is Hinsdale. We're a little weird here. We a little eccentric. So there's some decisions that have to be made. And we've been really deliberate about sort of not engaging excessively in discussions about, we're saving a building, nobody's gonna make a ton of money here, but we're gonna feel great, and I think it'll look really cool, and I get to drive by it all the time, and so do you all. I hope it doesn't fall over when we're doing it.
It's a wonderful use case for commercial building preservation. I hope you document it.
Oh, I like it. There's somebody already reached out to do white paper on this from Notre
Wonderful.
Dame, and they're trying to convert old schools and churches, and they're looking for case study examples, and this could end up in some papers. We've already heard from the Lutheran church out in West Chicago, and they have a school. Theirs is a little trickier, but there's something here on this. I do love when we can save stuff. If you go by my house, there's an old 1980 Toyota that. Whatever, guys. You're gonna throw me out, aren't you, Trustee Burns?
No. Here's what I was gonna ask you. Move-in date.
Okay.
I'm gonna write it down too, of course.
Then I would say Labor Day of 25,
Okay.
which would give me 12 months to build it, starting Labor Day of 24, and I want to beat that. Now it's on the record. So.
Very good.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a
Very
wonderful
good.
evening. We really appreciate you.
Also, trustees, in
Save
order
our
to save
papers.
paper, just put this underneath
Yep.
for your next packet. Which moves us next to agenda item 8D. And this is a first read, an exterior appearance and site plan review to allow for the installation of a brick wall and bollards for Fuller's Car Wash, which is located at 102 West Chicago Avenue and is located in the B1 district. The subject property here is surrounded by various uses in the B1 district with no residential buildings within 250 feet of the subject property. The car wash does operate under a special use permit, which was issued by the village in 1995. I would note that the applicant has installed 11 bollards in August on the east side of the property, following an accident at the property, which we're all familiar with. The applicant installed the bollards without a permit, and at this time is seeking approval of the bollards, along with a more decorative brick wall, which will surround the existing bollards. I would refer the trustees to illustrations which are included in your packet. And the summary of the wall is basically, it'll be approximately 40 feet in length. A majority of the wall is gonna be 4 feet, 9 inches tall, and it's gonna be anchored by end caps or slightly taller at 5 1/4 feet in height. On top of the end caps, they're gonna be a decorative light fixture, which installed on the top will make it approximately 7 feet in height total. The wall will be constructed of completely red brick, which will match the brick of the car wash and also the brick of the Fuller Service Station or Service Center on the north side of the street. And also, if you look at the wall that is on the north side of the street along Lincoln, it's gonna mimic that wall. In total, let's see, I would note that the Plan Commission did hold a meeting on this matter. There were no residents that spoke against the project, and the Plan Commission unanimously recommended approval by a vote of 8-0. I do know that we do have the applicant here tonight. If there's any questions for him or the person?
Are the bollards gonna be inside of the brick wall?
Correct.
Okay.
Hi guys, Joel Gronewald, I'm the attorney for Fuller's. Yeah, I think Chairman Stifler said everything correctly. I don't know if you have any questions, but the purpose of the brick wall is to enclose the bollards so you don't see the bollards.
Okay, got it.
Because they're ugly.
And the bollards right now are approximately 3 feet, 7 or 8 inches tall. This will be
3.5
slightly
feet.
covered. Yeah.
So the brick wall will completely enclose them and cover them.
And it'll look consistent with the property across the street.
Exactly the same, maybe put some planters on it
Yeah.
during the summer season, yes.
And the lights that match the other ones.
Yep.
Thank you for taking initiative for doing this. Just question your rationale for spacing of the bollards.
So so a car couldn't go through it?
So was there a, because I'm looking here on either side. So was there, I guess, did you have an engineer out to kind of guide you in the spacing or determining where these should go? I know I just, in layman's terms, yes, like seeing a car, cars are different sizes, et cetera.
Yeah, I don't think it was an engineer per se, it was Murphy's Seal Coating that did the work, and it was their design person that said, here's how the bollard should be.
Okay,
I mean, obviously, the bollards were ex post facto, and
right.
as
Well,
Mr.
and-
Stifler said, no permit was obtained, and it was just done, so.
Well, again, I thank you for taking the initiative and doing that. You know, I know you did that on your own.
But the purpose of the wall is to cover the bollards, so you don't see the bollards.
Yeah, I get that.
Because they're ugly.
But no vehicles are gonna go through it because of the bollards that are inside of the wall.
Right.
Yep. I have no questions.
I don't either.
None? Good. You know, we're going to, because it's a zoning matter, it has to go through a second read. Unless you hear from staff, there's no need for you to be here on the 21st.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thanks so much.
Which moves us on to agenda item 9A, which was the accounts payable. I had the bag this week, went through everything, found everything to be in perfect order. There were no specific questions or anything out of order. So with that, I will make a motion to approve payment for the accounts payable for the period of October 12th, 2023 through November 1st of 2023 in the aggregate amount of $2,090,081.81 as set forth on the list provided by the village treasurer, of which a permanent copy is on file with the village clerk.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Pashima?
Aye.
Trustee Braden?
Aye.
Trustee Stifler?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Burns?
Aye.
Trustee Bing?
Aye.
Which moves us to the consent agenda, which is agenda items 9B through 9F. Are there any trustees that want to pull anything off of the consent agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda items B and C.
Second.
That was in B through F.
Don't we need to do?
Or B and
D, E, and F also?
Oh, I'm sorry, B, D, E, and F. Pardon me.
B, C, D, E, and F.
Correct.
And a second.
Second from Michelle. Roll call vote?
Trustee Pashima?
Aye.
Trustee Braden?
Aye.
Trustee Stifler?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Burns?
Aye.
Trustee Bing?
Aye.
Which moves us now to agenda item 10A, and this is a second read for, to approve a variation relative to signage at the Hinsdale Middle School at 100 South Garfield Street, where the applicant is the Community Consolidated School District Number 181. We did have this matter up in our last October meeting. There was some discussion on it. Also, what I would note that there were 2 meetings which were held by the Plan Commission on May 10th and June 14th regarding the content of the signage. Plan Commission typically has final authority over signage, but I would note here that there's a variation request, and the ZBA does not have final authority to us, so that's why the variations are here in front of us this night, which we will vote on. The specific variation requests include an increase in the number of wall signs permitted on the building from 2 feet to 6 feet, or I'm sorry, from number of 2 signs to 6 signs, an increase in the maximum gross surface area from 100 square feet to 114 square feet, increase in the maximum gross surface area of the official emblem from 3 square feet to 18 square feet, increase in the maximum height of the wall sign from 20 to 39 feet, and an increase in the size of the flags from 24 square feet to 96 square feet. And it was detailed to us, at least at the Plan Commission, and that is driven by state law, although I'm not familiar with that. Based on feedback provided by the Plan Commission at the first meeting, Hinsdale Middle School, the applicant did submit revised plans for review at the second meeting. I would also note that at the second meeting, there was one resident at 306 South Garfield, which did raise concerns. Their concern, which I think is the third time I've mentioned tonight, was regard to the flagpole noise. The school district did commit to remedy that in some way with changing the fixture or taking the flags down in the evening. The lack of glare shields on the monument sign, which the resident cited shields which are used by Union Church, which would be something to replicate. There was also discussion of when the lights are turned off, and it was represented by Hinsdale Middle School that the code says the later of 10 o'clock or when they're done for business, and that was also committed to by the school district at that time. The zoning, also it's important from a process standpoint to mention that the Zoning Board of Appeals did hold a public hearing on the matter on August 17th of '23. And after a short discussion, the ZBA did find that these requests did meet the standards outlined in our code. And with that, I would open up to any questions specifically for the applicant. At the last meeting, I know you weren't here, Neil, but the applicant went through all of the signs and where they were placed. And one thing, not necessarily following the standards of the code, but at least that I found, is the school is so big, you know, it covers a full square block, that the signage, at least in my opinion, is not overtaking in any way whatsoever, although the 139-foot sign is pretty tall. So with that, I'd open it up to questions.
I have no question.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm okay with the signage. I understand, you know, I kind of understand the need for that. The one thing I don't understand is why we're putting a flagpole on Garfield. I mean, we have this nice flagpole, you know, in the front of the you know, the entrance off of 3rd Street, and we have the flag there and everything, but it just seems odd or inappropriate to have a flagpole there. And it's gonna be relatively close to the street, and you're gonna hang this humongous 8x12 flag from it too, and I just don't think that's appropriate. And
How tall is that flag on Garfield? And if you could step up. Thank you.
Director of Facilities for School District 181. I don't know the size, or our owner's rep is Kerry Leonard, who's been to all the planning and zoning and previous meetings, and he couldn't make it tonight. I'm sorry, I don't know the height of the flagpole.
I believe it's somewhere in here. I think it said it was like on 40 feet.
That
I don't know if it's the
sounds about
same height as the one in the in front of the entrance, school entrance.
Yeah, that's not really the school entrance, that's the bus loop on
I
3rd
understand
Street.
that. And that, I won't even get into a discussion of that because I was totally disagreeing with that. But
But I will say this, the flagpole that we have already was supposed to go on the parking deck, but due to the structure of the parking deck, we couldn't put it in.
Right.
The village was supposed to put it in when the deck was built. So we want to use it, and I think it's a good demarcation for the entrance off of Garfield, where we're gonna put the new sign as well.
Yeah, I disagree. I mean, I think it's one thing to have it there, but I don't want to put it in just because we have it.
No, I
You know?
understand. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about that. And so, and is it a state law that you have to have this flag this big? I mean, you've had a smaller flag there for, I mean, the current flag you have isn't that big, is that correct?
Yes, no, it's the same size.
Really?
As the one that's in the front, or it's not the front, the one off of 2nd Street?
Oh, Third Street.
Third Street.
Third Street, yeah.
Bus loop is 3rd Street.
Right,
So that's an 8x12 sign?
yes.
Flag? Okay.
The size is a matter of state law.
Correct.
And that's only because of how high the flagpole. If it were a shorter flagpole, it could be a smaller flag.
I really don't know, I'm sorry. I think
Because
it
if you
has
look
to
at-
do with the
if you
fact
look
that
at
we're a
Hinsdale
school.
Central, their flag isn't anywhere near that big. The flag at Madison isn't, maybe it's, those are both shorter flag poles.
That could be.
But this, if you look back there, if you look at the width between the edges of the doors and the height, that's probably about 12 by 8. That's a big flag, even if it's 40 feet in the air. It just strikes me as that pretty big. And, here again, hanging over Garfield, so
Yep.
I have a problem with that.
Do you want to, so first, as I look at this, I can understand if you're gonna vote no on this, but the flag size or the flag pole height is not something that we can, I don't think we have discretion over that. That's permitted, the height of the flagpole.
Yeah.
But it's the size that you could vote no on,
Well, I mean,
or the location.
I think I can vote no on the location.
Yes, you
I
can.
don't think it's appropriate.
Yeah,
so.
okay,
And I will vote no.
okay. Other comments, questions? Hearing none, could I get a motion?
Excuse me?
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
I thought you said to wait.
You did. My apologies on that. I thought that you were with the school district also. Are you the resident from 306
I
North
am,
Garfield?
that and additionally the East Third neighbors.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'd love to hear from
So as it was at the Plan Commission as
Yes.
well. So what we're not here to say that we're against any of the things that the Plan Commission and everybody presented, but so far, District 181 hasn't been the greatest neighbor for the 4 years. There are a whole bunch of issues that I won't go into, but the latest example, for instance, is parking a bus 24/7 in front on the bus turnaround. That has apparently gotten resolved after a number of phone calls, but so it's kind of frustrating to deal with 181. That's just the latest thing. I mean, the bus is gone now, but would anybody like to have a full-size bus parked in front of their, across the street?
No.
And 181 just does whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it. So what we're really asking for about the lighting, the flagpole's been inconsistent about taking it down. Sometimes it's down, sometimes it's not. It is a smaller flag, you're correct.
Yeah, sure.
That we went through with the Plan Commission, it was the size flag they put up then. Whether it's code or whatever, I'm not sure. I can't really comment on
The
it.
current one there is smaller.
Yeah, but the one that's up there is smaller than that 8 by 12.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, in having spoken a number of times to the flagpole manufacturer, and I don't know that 181 has, and that's part of where I'm getting to. What we really request is some sort of mechanism between 181, the homeowners on Third Street, because we're really the ones that are affected, and the village, because we need some accountability somehow. Whether it's like a quarterly meeting between the three of us or the groups, we just need to get 181 to walk the walk and, talk the talk, but you gotta do what you say you're going to do.
Yep.
And the lighting hasn't changed. This one, HMS is lit up like a Christmas tree 24/7. None of their other properties are.
Yep.
I mean, you can go past them all. They don't look anything like.
You mean none of the other schools?
Yes.
Are like that?
Yes. So we've got all those unresolved issues, and, then there's gonna be 2 flagpoles, twice the noise, possibly, who knows?
Is the noise troublesome during the day, or is it only at night?
Well, the police certainly don't like it at night, especially when they're on detail. I've talked to a number of officers about that, but again, 181 said they would do something about it. There are engineering fixes in having spoken to the engineer folks at the flagpole company. Don't know if they've done anything because nobody communicates. So that's what we're here to ask for, is some sort of mechanism to have some communication, because this will go on you know, with various other issues. Originally, in discussing it, the east side has permanent bike racks, which are never really populated very well, but 181 decided to put bike racks on the south and on the west side, temporary ones. You know, just like it's not as bad as having a bus, but I've got bikes all over the place, which that's, you know, it was well thought out originally because the bikes were, that's why the permanent bike racks were put on the east side of the building. If you look at the lighting on the west side of the building, it doesn't affect the neighbors for that, but having a loading dock lit up 24/7, 365.
And is the light from exterior lights or from interior lights through the glass?
Both. And we've had discussions for 4 years about this. Personally, I've offered to have window tinting. You know, the talk has always been that they're working on having someone in Texas or Oklahoma or somewhere, wherever the lighting contractor was, that they were gonna fix, you know, try to fix that. A lot of the exterior lighting really isn't on timers, it's just on photo cells, which don't always work very well. So, I mean, the place really is lit up way, you know, way more than it ever could need to be.
So there's two things. One, I'll just make the observation, you know, lighting has been a big issue. Since we've been here, I think when we go into commercial properties, we had this at Land Rover. You know, the lighting, the density of lightings, we're really trying to bring down, not the density, but the illumination, the lumens of lighting, we're really trying to bring down because it becomes quite intrusive to neighbors. So I am sympathetic to the position that you're in. But
And there was a commitment at the planning stages of the construction that there would be, quote, no off-site lighting.
Yeah, but there's
Not,
also,
not meeting the village code, which is quite antiquated, as we kind of all know. You know, because we kind of went through that with the Union Church, and they did an outstanding job of doing what they did.
so I would put the, back to District 181. How do we solve this issue and how do we keep your neighbors happy?
A couple of things.
If you could just so the people can hear.
A few things. We did do a photometric study, I think it's called. Rob, you were a part of that, and we were within the guidelines as it approached it.
But that doesn't match the commitment you made during the planning stage.
I don't know what commitment we're talking about now. But but just in,
Public hearings that went on because you guys needed a variation, and the residents got the story on the east side, so that.
okay, can I speak now because it's my turn? Yeah.
Okay, but it doesn't, and also lights have to be off by 10 o'clock according to our code.
Well, we have custodians in the building until 11:30 every day, so we can't let them work in the dark. They're on
They're not, these are exterior lights. Have to be
exterior
off by
lights.
10 PM.
Okay, I'm talking about interior lights.
Are the exterior lights off at 10 PM at night?
No, sir, never.
Okay. The other thing is we finally found a contractor to help us with the lights, and they're coming in over Christmas break.
Interior or exterior?
Both.
Okay, and what are they gonna do?
Well, they're gonna, right now, the controls that we had installed in the beginning of the construction aren't working correctly.
And
So-
what are those controls supposed to do?
Turn the lights off at certain times and turn the lights off when rooms aren't occupied and when hallways aren't occupied and go and operate the way they're supposed to.
Okay.
Can we have them follow up with staff as to when the repairs will be made and finalized so that we can contact you, sir? To at least get those loading dock lights off. That would drive me bananas.
Well, they're on Washington.
It's just a waste of, it's a huge waste of energy.
Sure.
Guess the building at any time.
Yeah, I agree. The problem we had, and I'm sympathetic to the residents here because this is, representations and warranties are made and then not followed through. So I think we need to get something that sticks and to follow through on that, or the residents on Third Street are gonna continue to make legitimate complaints and not be heard. Rob, what is there that we can do in order to make sure that, you know, exterior lights are turned off at 10 PM or until the activities that are going on there are done?
We do have standards in the code, the 0.5-foot candles holds
Yeah,
true.
but
We can
for-
certainly go out and take readings at the lot line.
Yeah.
No, just the timing. I mean, just that they, like, I understand glare and our
Yeah.
photometric stuff, but just timing. It's shut off at a certain time, period.
Yeah, we've got that for institutional buildings that are surrounded by residential districts or have a lot line they share with the residential district, then they have to be off at 10 PM. So how do we enforce that?
So right now, the code's kind of weak on exactly what security level readings are. That lumen level, that foot candle number, we really don't define what security levels, like after hours, the lights are supposed to be reduced to security levels.
Yep.
But we really don't define what security levels are.
Okay,
What did we do for Union Church?
I don't recall.
That was a certain number of lumens. That sign was, I believe, internally illuminated, and we debated over the brightness of the LED lights that were going in on that sign, and came to, I think, a happy medium. But it's such a small sign. I feel like it's not.
But there was a time that they had to shut off.
But that's on the sign.
Oh,
they
timing.
also-
Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought it was the brightness of the sign.
No, just the
I mean,
timing.
it was zero foot candles at the property line. There were shades on the lights.
Yeah.
And then the hours, it was 10, except for like a handful of times where they have like a service late at night.
Well, we can work with staff on whatever you require, whatever they want us to do. And if we can do it before Christmas break, we can instruct the.
So trustee Stifler,
Yeah.
why don't we as staff commit to meeting with the school district and the resident, and also perhaps the superintendent, and sit down and figure out how we can address the concerns of the residents and to comply with what the commitments that were made at the start of this process.
Yeah, because I think and first of all, I want to make sure that these are two separate matters here. We got a variation on signage, number one, that we're voting on tonight, okay, and then the other is we've got a resident complaint versus, you know, the lighting at HMS, which I think should be followed up separately and not
Yes.
necessarily be tied to what we're voting here tonight, other than Neil's issue.
Right, so
But
So staff will look into it and will provide feedback to the board on the issue with the residents' concerns.
Good. And I would say if you're not satisfied come January 1st, as far as is, come back here. Okay, and if you guys can, I know what you need to do, and a lot of times these things fall in priority. There's a lot of things to be done. If we could just move it up on the priority list.
Sure.
Great. Okay, so with that, moving back, any other comments? Okay. Thank you. And I'm sorry I missed you before. No, that's okay. With that, can I get a motion with regard to agenda item 10A?
Motion to approve an ordinance approving variations relative to signage at Hinsdale Middle School at 100 South Garfield Street, Hinsdale, Illinois, Community Consolidated District 181, case number V-02-23.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Trustee Postma?
Aye.
Trustee Braden?
Aye.
Trustee Stifler?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Burns?
Nay. Aye.
Trustee Pinky?
Aye.
With that, we move to discussion items. Staff update on the tollway?
Thank you. Good evening. The Illinois Tollway reports that the ramp connecting Ogden Avenue to northbound I-294 will be closed until December. Westbound traffic will be detoured through the interchange, and eastbound traffic will access northbound I-294 via the old loop ramp, which will be temporarily reopened during this construction phase. More information regarding the tollway construction project is available at www.illinoistollway.com. Thank you.
150th anniversary?
To date, we have received over $50,000 in donations, which is fantastic. If I do my math correctly, I believe this is $20,000 of an increase since our last meeting. Staff and board members are finalizing the project details and plans. Our goal is to break ground first thing in the spring. As we approach the holiday season, we are again reminded the village lawn and the memorial building do serve as the centerpiece of our village. Think Christmas walk, think Christmas lighting, which is December 1st at 5 p.m. The space touches all of us, residents, families, businesses, commissioners, and board members. Please join us and be part of this project. Also, please remember all of your donations are tax deductible. One final quick note, if you don't mind, sir. I wanted to give a special thank you and a note of appreciation to Plan Commissioner Cynthia Curry, Julie Cernovich, and Scott Moore. My understanding is our beautiful bell in the memorial building, the carillon, and the speakers are up and running, and we hope that they will be ready for use during the month of December and for our Christmas season.
We heard the testing. It was really nice.
Yeah. They do sound nice. Great. Additional staff reports? Okay, none. Any citizen petitions? Nobody's here. Trustee comments? Hearing none. No reason for a closed session tonight. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Pashma?
Aye.
Trustee Braden?
Aye.
Trustee Stifler?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Burns?
Aye.
Trustee Vink?
Aye.
We're adjourned.